Steve, I got one of the best birthday presents I've ever gotten, and that was from our friend Sally Jacoby Murphy, and it's a Battle for Endor shirt.
Oh man, you did send that to me, yeah.
It's that poster that makes no sense. It's got that like butch tough guy on the front of it when nobody like that is in the movie. So fun.
Remember when those shirts were all the rage, like in the late 80s, early 90s, that style, and now everyone's making those shirts. They're making them for everything now.
I know.
Stoked about it.
The retro's coming back.
It sure is. Sally did a little show and tell earlier because we got her, my wife Hillary and I got her this book of Star Wars felt, and she's made a Wicket, which is breathtaking.
Thank you.
Jeez, it's amazing.
He's pretty adorable. I kind of want to figure out a way to like Velcro him to all my outfits so he can sit on my shoulder.
I think that's a great idea.
Just hanging along.
Yeah, I think that'll make me cool.
You're the treehouse. That's what it is.
This needs to be in your Etsy store, Sally, so everybody can have a shoulder wicket.
Shoulder wicket. What are you doing, hon? Oh, I'm shopping for shoulder wickets. I'm more of a shoulder Nisa myself, you know. Welcome to This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning, and we're following the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi to the Ewok TV movies, the 80s cartoon, and beyond.
Today we are discussing Season 2, Episode 10A, Horville's Hut of Horrors, with special guest, Sally Jacoby Murphy, the Queen of Halloween.
I like being a secret guest.
Yeah.
That makes me feel like extra special.
Nobody knew you were coming, so you are the secret guest. Like, surprise!
We didn't announce it last time. Although it would be fun sometime to have a guest on here and they keep their screen blank and the other one of us has to try to guess who it is. You know?
That's true. It's like the Masked Singer, but
yeah,
the Masked Podcaster.
Exactly.
It's the next show.
You can only communicate in emojis. That's it. Sally, welcome back to This Endorian Life.
Thank you. It's good to be back, especially since, traditionally I have only been on here for Halloween. So it's like, it is extra special for me.
It is. Yeah. Now, technically, we've tried this once before because early on we had you on for the Haunted Village because we thought with a name like the Haunted Village, it's going to be a spooky episode. And it was, in fact, not. It was all about them, like, stealing soap. Do you remember that?
Definitely not, yeah.
I remember that very well.
Yeah.
It's hard to forget.
I'm pleased to say that this one is spooky. I think this is the spookiest episode we've done.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I have a real... we can get into this, Sally, because I'm sure you have thoughts on it, but I have a real weakness for spooky dreams and, like, dream stuff. This used to terrify me as a child.
Yeah, that's fair. There's some real, like, Huffalumps and Woozles kind of vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I got out of it, which was absolutely terrifying. And I'm almost 40, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to... I didn't even write about it in a synopsis. I just breezed over it as like a nightmare dreamscape. I copped out on that one.
Today's episode was written by Paul Dini. It was directed by Dale Scott. It originally aired November 15th, 1986, and was released on VHS as part of the compilation Ewoks 4, Wicket's Adventures as He Becomes a Warrior. And that title cracks me up because that is the longest title that I've ever heard in my life.
It could be longer. In the forest, collecting badges for his belt of honor. Exactly.
Ewoks 4. One time Wicket decided that he wanted to get a bunch of things on his belt, and so he went around solving crimes and facing adventures so that he could get things for his belt.
Part 1.
Yeah.
It's so true, though.
We've covered all the cast for season 2, and they don't have a lot of credits. So this is an odd one. So stay with me here, okay? When the Ewoks and the Droids cartoons were issued on DVD, they each got a DVD release, and they took like 4 episodes and they turned them into like a feature length. But to make that work, they did like a frame story with narration. So Alex Lindsay was brought in, and he did just a standard narration for the Droids episodes. But for the Ewoks DVD, which I've seen, like this is the thing I've probably seen the most, he does a voiceover, but in character as like an old Wicket, being like, "Oh, I remember back in the days of Endor." So Alex Lindsay plays an old Wicket, but only on the DVD release of the Ewoks cartoons, which I think is kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
But aside from that, he had previously worked at Lucasfilms doing visual effects for The Phantom Menace, where he also appeared on screen as Rum Slag. And there is an action figure. I checked, and there is an action figure of Rum Slag. So, yeah. Yep.
What?
So he's made it. I know.
Oh, man.
I know.
Is this actively something that I could go to like Target and buy, or is this long out of?
Probably it came out like in conjunction with The Phantom Menace. So
Okay. So it'll cost me a pretty penny.
Yes, it probably would. There was a lot of crossover between like the Ewoks, particularly the droid cartoon and the prequels. There's a lot of things in Attack of the Clones that are like come directly from the droids cartoons, or there's a lot of connection there. So I think that's why these were coming out at the same time. There was people who were involved in both, and were just kind of using it as an opportunity to be like, hey, people are interested in Star Wars. Let's toss out some of these lesser-known things. So pretty cool, I thought.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, you want to take us into our uber-detailed plot for Horville's Hut of Horrors?
I will take us in. The uber-detailed plot or synopsis of Season 2, Episode 10A, Horville's Hut of Horrors. It's carnival season in the village, and Wicket is especially excited for the Warriors' overnight trip coming up. Shadu, busy baking pies for the carnival, needs Wicket to take Winda, his baby sister, to the Tumble Bunny show. Wicket protests, but is convinced by the prospect of being able to go on the Warriors' overnighter. Wicket approaches the show, but starts to back away, running into Tebow and Lataro, who are also backing away from the Tumble Bunny show. It's no place for a warrior, Wicket says. That's when they spot Horville's Hut of Horrors. Wicket and the gang are a bit startled, but intrigued about the show, while the little walklings are terrified. Wicket convinces the gang to go into the Hut of Horrors despite protests from the little ones. After getting their fill, the whole gang runs from the hut screaming in fright. The walklings won't stop crying, and the gang regrets bringing them into the Hut of Horrors. Wicket has an idea of having all the walklings sleep over at his place to hopefully distract the scared walklings, but even Tebow's failed magic tricks don't work, as everything reminds them of the Hut of Horrors. Shadu arrives and wonders why everyone is crying. Nisa pleads with Wicket to come clean or he won't be able to go on the Warriors' overnighter, but he's stubborn and still won't admit what he did. That night, Wicket develops a plan with Tebow to prevent the walklings from having nightmares, which would surely give away his mistake. They use a magical contraption that sucks bad dreams away, but aren't exactly sure how it works. During the night, the contraption does its job of sucking the bad dreams away from the little walklings, but it falls over and all the trapped dreams are released and transferred to Wicket, who ends up having Horville's Hut of Horror nightmares of his own. Horville's Hut characters are morphed in with his family and friends and his guilt of keeping his secret from his mother in a terrifying nightmare dreamscape. Shouting, "No, no, no!" Wicket is woken up by his mother. The walklings are fine, but the shock of his own terrible nightmare spurs Wicket to come clean to his mother about taking the walklings to the Hut of Horrors and not the bunny show. Wicket is very sorry, and Shadu now knows why he had bad nightmares. Wicket asks if he can still go on the Warriors overnight. Shadu tells him he can go on the next one, because he's going to be busy. Busy being the main act in the Tumble Bunny show all day, that is. Roll credits.
When I hear the Tumble Bunny show, that does not sound like a children's show to me. That sounds like a very adult performance. Yes, me? Okay.
I mean, who knows?
Right.
You know, I'm just like a bunch of furries or something, you know?
I was pleasantly surprised at just how spooky this episode was.
No, I mean, I thought it was spooky. My only, spooky complaint was I wanted to see more of what actually happened in the Hut of Horrors.
Right?
But
yeah.
overall spook factor high, I would say, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because you go and you see kind of a showcase of all the different things that are in the Hut of Horrors, but you don't really get to see them. It's just that one spooky guy. I liked his character design, Horville. I looked it up because I thought that he was a specific Star Wars alien. So it's like sort of hammerhead, like, you know what I'm talking about, Steve?
Yeah, he's got that look of that alien in the cantina where his head kind of goes up, but Horville's goes down.
Right, exactly.
Right?
The nearest I could find, like looking up Star Wars, like long-faced aliens, was the Endorians. But yeah, those are the ones where they connect along the chin and the head goes up. And Horville was, like you said, just the opposite. Like comes straight across where like the neck would be and the face like droops way down. But there's something very off-putting about that design. Like just the design alone is creepy.
Yeah, and his voice.
Yeah.
It's whoever I tried to look up who did the voice. I can't find it.
I know.
Can't find it. It's nowhere.
I don't know. It's like they kept no records. It's really bizarre. You can't find that anywhere. I thought this whole thing worked. It felt very atypical as far as Ewok episodes go, you know, because it was just like it was kind of self-contained. It was about like the bad dreams. There wasn't really a villain in the story. It was just like them struggling with being creeped out, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I liked we're using Tebow's magic. You know, I thought it was cool that he was gonna he had that contraption that was gonna suck the bad dreams out of their head. And then the fact that the mechanism breaks and everybody's weird bad dreams gets mixed together and then goes into Wicket's mind. That feels horror movie like to me.
No, I agree. I mean, I thought the whole dream sequence was kind of interesting because it felt like it was borrowing from other horror dream sequences that I've seen. I mean, I joked about the Heffalumps and Woozles. It did remind me of the Winnie the Pooh thing there.
Yeah.
But that has famously been one of the things that people reference as that really freaked me out as a kid. And I was like, I feel like if I had watched this as a kid, I would be genuinely scared. And it reminds me of, it reminded me of Poltergeist. I know there's not specifically a dream sequence in that, but that's sort of it's almost like another dimension or something.
Yeah.
It is very other dimensional, and it's the morphing, I think, which is freaky, right?
Yeah.
When you're looking at a scary object, but then it morphs into his mother, but then she's still and it's okay, all right, nope, that's freaky.
Yeah,
freaky.
Well, I think it was just clear that they were really going for a horror aesthetic, and just something about how the dreamscape was sort of underdrawn, it was shadows, but it was also stuff didn't really make sense, and there were random eyeballs on things, and it had almost a Salvador Dali kind of loose, drippy vibe to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was
the typical dream things, right? Running and not going anywhere. He did that.
Yep.
That's a typical dream thing, and that's what I thought when I saw that. I was just oh yeah, I've had dreams like that where I'm running but not going anywhere, and it's terrifying.
You hit it, Steve. The thing where it's it's something creepy and then it turns into Shadow, but then Shadow's creepy. That's I mean, nightmare. That's just pure nightmare. That's the worst kind, where it's in the dream you think, oh, okay, I'm safe now, and then whatever it is turns and no, you're not. That's creepy.
It is. Yeah. They did well in this one. It's funny how all the other ones, the episode names do sound terrifying.
Yeah.
But this one is, Horville's Hut of Horrors. Yeah. I think we got what we expected. I think I was this time I was expecting it to be scary, and I think my kids watched this one and they did have dreams. So I wonder if this affected him.
Yeah.
So, oh man.
Yeah, I don't really have complaints about this. As I was trying to think about an Oak of Arc moment, I kind of struggled with that. What did you guys think? Sally, what was your least favorite part of this episode?
I mean, I feel like I already said it. My Oak of Arc moment was just I wanted there to be more within the Hut of Horrors. I was oh no, I want to learn more about Ploob. What does that guy do?
Ploob. Yeah. Yeah, right.
So true. They did introduce them. It's hello, I'm Ploob, and just
You know what? I feel when I was searching for things about this episode, every time I go to type in Horville's Hut of Horrors, the response would be Horville's Hut of Horrors Ploob, because people I think are just searching what, WTF Ploob. So, yeah, I think that's good. I think that's a fair assessment. Wanting more with Horville's Hut of Horrors, but I kind of appreciated how I feel like they were sort of playing with the concept of like not knowing what's in there is kind of scarier than actually seeing like Ploob and be like, "Ooh, I'm Ploob. You're afraid of Ploob," you know?
Yeah.
The concept of like the unknown elements of Horville is what's really freaking them out more than anything. So
Yeah.
I kind of like that. What about you, Steve? What's your Oak of Arc?
I think mine was when they set up the contraption to suck the dreams away or trap whatever the terminology would be, is they were like, yeah, this is what it's supposed to do, but we don't know how it works. And then what happened was it worked fine. It just, the leg fell apart. And so I was just like, oh, well, what was that weird, like, we don't know how it works?
Yeah.
Because then I was expecting that, like, they set it up wrong, not that it would just fall over, right? And so that it would, like, backfire on, you know, that they were supposed to put, like, a net on it, and they didn't.
Right.
And then all the dreams just, you know, fizzled down right into Wicket's head. You know, that to me, I was just like, oh, what? That was, like, a weird, like, hook, and then nothing was caught.
So the fact that it was just like a mechanical failure versus like, all right, it sucks the dreams out of your head and makes them real. Like,
we don't know how it works.
Yeah, okay,
but you do.
Okay.
Apparently, you do. You know, like,
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
So
it is honestly like the concept of a machine that can suck dreams out of your head is pretty terrifying.
It is.
That could be used in some real warfare.
Yeah.
Can it suck good dreams out too?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
And can it put like bad dreams? Like, could you suck it out and put it in a Dulox's head or something?
Ooh, wow!
A dream weapon,
Right to weaponizing. Wow, dark.
Gotta get.
Dark.
We got to take care of those Dulox somehow, you know. What about you, Nick? What was your like Oak of Arc?
Well, I think mine, because I mean, I guess we have to have sort of a goofy cartoon ending, but like Wicket having like his punishment being he has the star in the Floppy Bunnies or whatever show, I thought was kind of stupid.
Yeah, that was dumb. I agree.
Not just that he has to take them, but he has to like perform. I don't know. I just thought that was
in the lead role.
In the lead role, yeah. I thought that was. I don't know. I thought that
he
was
didn't
kind of
earn
silly.
that.
No. Ichiwawa I feel like is equally hard though because there's lots of elements that I liked. So what about you, Steve? What was the part that did it for you?
Mine was when they're about to walk in and they're like, "What's that horrible noise?" And it's like the music and like the screaming, and it's like this little dopey guy with like organ pipes coming out of him, and he's just like walking by, like. Yeah, and he's just like, his organs are on the outside, but he's just an organ. That makes sense. But no, he like walks over and he just looks like this dopey guy, but like screams and loud noises and startling music is coming out of him. He just walks away. It just kind of reminds me of like Larry. I don't know. He reminded me of Larry.
Yay! Yeah, good old Larry. Okay. Sally, what about you? What part did it for you? What was your favorite?
I mean, I feel like I had two. The first one, the small one, was in the first, 30 seconds when he says, the warrior overnighter, or whatever. And I was like, is this a sleepover for warriors? And I want to see this, and I want it to exist as, a pillow fight, sleepover, eating lots of junk food kind of thing, but, with warriors.
Right. They're, calling girls, hey, go!
Yeah. They're watching Miss Congeniality and
right.
That's why
guys, Gladiator. Yeah. He's so cool, you know,
exactly. So that did get me excited, but I suppose that's for a future episode.
Yeah.
But then I would say my real one was I agree with you that I thought the character design of the whole horror thing was great. Yeah. So Horville was great. I thought the other guys that they show, the mystic guy and stuff, I just thought they were really cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
And genuinely creepy. And I like that they were sort of distinctly different from any of the other aliens that we've seen in the show so far. So, yeah.
True.
Yeah,
they really
that's
are.
True.
Yeah,
we've had that before where there's been characters and we're like, I don't know, he kind of looks like a clone of this.
Yeah.
So, these were these, if they didn't talk, we'd have been like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, they're the scary ones. Yeah. We can definitely tell. So they did a good job.
They messed with proportions. Things were long that shouldn't be long, and their heights were all weird and weird. Yeah, Yeah, it was really good. It's hard for me to pick because I think that there were the dream monster turning into Shadow and that still being creepy was I've had that kind of dream. But I feel like the dreamscape in general, the moment where, as you said, Steve, he's like running and going nowhere, and you have like these droopy shadows in the background, and you just have like random eyes bulging out. I was like, this is freaky, and I was excited to see that. So I'm going to give it to that.
It was a legit dream, and I was wondering too when it happened was Wicket's dream just a collective dreams of all the kids? So it was just like was the running like one of the little kids, and then was like Shadow was definitely part of Wicket's,
or was the Shadow like Winda's nightmare, his little sister? You know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, like, oh, mom's going to find out what I did, you know, like even it wasn't really her fault. Still, you know, you're like,
yeah.
So that's interesting.
Like blending all of their nightmares together. Yeah. I think was really cool. It's a tough one to rate because I feel like it's maybe up there with best of season 2. I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
I was thinking I gave one a little while ago, I think a 4.5. This one was better, but it's not a 5.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like,
I know.
It was very much Star Wars. It felt like a Ewoks. I don't know. I got to give this one a 5, I think. It was really good.
Yep.
I'm giving it a 5. I'm doing it, and I feel good about it.
Godspeed, Steve. But no, that's where I'm at, too. Again, using the scale of season 2, I think this is right up there. So yeah, I'll give it a 5 out of 5. Sure. Sally, what about you?
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point my ratings are kind of meaningless because I enjoy all of these so much. But even when they're not as good, I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. So I'm pretty sure the first one, no, was it the last one? One of them I've given a 5 to. But I mean, this is definitely a 5 for me. I enjoyed everything about this one. So.
Nice.
You were pretty happy with Night of the Gorax, but that was the comic, not the show. So
that's right.
Maybe is the best episode you've seen with us, I think. Yeah.
That's true. You're right.
Yeah, that was so good, though. They did a really good job on that.
Yeah.
That was just so good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I feel like we've righted the wrong that we had on you all those episodes ago with Haunted Village, which was not scary. This was spooky enough for both of them, and it required the Queen of Halloween.
I learned a lot about soap on that last one, though. So
that's true. That's true. You did. You did. You did. Your wife seems like the kind of person who would make soap. Has she made soap before? You can be honest.
You know, I don't think she has. I feel like the difference between us, though, is I actually did make soap this year, but mine was like that frou-frou, like you just melt it in the microwave and add scent to it and like boom, you have soap. But she would be the person that goes out and like renders animal fat to like boil down.
Digging up roots. Yeah.
So,
digging up roots.
Yeah. That might be in my future. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Oh, no.
I want to ask one question because this played in. This is like my number one fear as a child was spooky dreams and dreams I can't control. But I want to know, like, when thinking back to when you were super little, like, what's one of the earliest things you remember watching and then having nightmares about? I'll tell you mine. Well, I'll give you a minute to think about yours.
Okay.
I watched an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which was just on Nick at Night, and it was about this guy who crawled into his bed and was convinced that there was a snake in the bottom of it, and nobody would take it seriously, and nobody would help him, and finally, like, there's a big twist where the person who's making fun of him gets in the bed after he gets out, and then he's trapped with the snake. And the guy's like, well, you didn't believe me, so why should I believe you? And he just leaves him there with, like, a rattlesnake at the foot of his bed. I had nightmares about a snake being in the foot of my bed for years after watching that episode. Years.
Oh, man. That's brutal.
Yeah.
What about you, Sally?
I mean, there are definitely a few that come to mind, but the one I'm going to go with is, do you remember that show, Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yes.
And yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And there's an episode, and I'm probably somebody who's like a big fan of this is going to be like, that is not how that episode goes. But it's like these teenagers are in their school locker room, and they realize that some of the lockers, if you pull them back, there's a hidden door behind them. So like they have moved these lockers to hide this door. And there's a swimming pool behind these lockers, and there is a monster that is invisible that lives in this pool that creates whirlpools and like eats children. And so like at some point, some kid was like swimming in the pool and this whirlpool happened and he like disappeared and is like gone and nobody knows what happened to him and all this jazz. And for years, as I was like falling asleep, I would think about all the places where there could be like these hidden doors that go to like freaky monsters that like adults apparently don't deal with. They just like cover the doors up and are like, hey, hopefully you don't wander in there, kids.
We'll just put kid lockers in front of it.
Wow.
Man, for me, I do know. And it was one time when we grew up in Patterson, my parents were outside and I went inside and I went up to their room and I could see outside. I could see them outside the window and their TV was right there. One of those like, CRT ones about like 12 inches. And I turned it on and Aliens was on. Oh. And it was the scene where they first encounter them when like, they're like, "Hey man, this should be you, like 20 feet, and they come through the windows or the ceiling and the floor. Yeah. That's what I saw. I think would that come out in like 86 or something? So it was probably like it was probably like 87 or 88. So it would have been like 5 years old.
That's like
burned in my brain forever. Yep. And when I eventually saw it, I was just like, yeah, it's a really scary scene. I probably should have seen that. But I was like 20 when I finally saw the actual movie, and I was like, I remember this. Where do I remember this from? Oh yeah, I still remember it, like looking outside, being like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be watching this. This is way too old for me. But I watched it. It was terrible. Worst part of the movie. Worst part, and I saw it.
And that's the one you watched. Well, yep. See, we all could have used that Horville machine that pulls the horrible nightmares out of your head.
Yeah, so well, that's why I hate dropped ceilings. You never know. Don't you just want to like look up and be like, "What's in there?" No, you don't. Oh, it terrifies me.
No, you're freaking me out.
It's gonna be you live with that for 30 years.
Yeah, I don't want to.
35 years.
I don't want to do that. All right. Well, Sally, thanks for coming on this creepy journey with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm always happy to come on these spooky adventures.
Yeah, you were quick. I was like, hey, what would you think? And you were like, I'm there. So, yeah.
Yes. I didn't even finish the sentence yet. I know.
It was a quick yes. It's funny. Like, we wrote out the schedule for the episodes that we were going to do, like when we were going to do them. And your name has been listed as doing this episode for like a year now. And I was like, wait, I never actually asked her to do that. So luckily it all worked out.
Well, I thought I was playing it cool. Like, oh yeah, I mean, I guess, whatever. But you saw through it. You saw my excitement.
I did.
Cancel all my plans.
I could see it. All right, well, next time we continue with episode 10B, The Tragic Flute. So we'll see what happens.
It's probably going to be tragic.
Do you think it will be a play on the magic flute, or do you think it will just be...
Oh, yeah, Mozart, right? Magic flute?
Yeah, there's like a whole opera. I don't know. I don't know. So I guess we'll find out. When next we meet. Steve, see you next time. Sally, so long.
Yes, see you. Sally, thank you.
Farewell.
This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 9021 Here We Go, 90s Music Got Me Like, and previously on X-Men. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook or Twitter @Endorian Life, and please rate, subscribe, and share this show wherever you get your podcasts.